What's going on, everybody? It's Doug,
And Sam,
and this is the Gaming and Chill podcast. That
hey, it's a
always
little,
go
a little bit different. Trying to go through and figure out who's gonna be leading this.
right. Well, I mean, because Derek's Wi-Fi card is down, and so a whole bunch of recording process can't work then. And
Can't
then
really do too much on a computer without the internet nowadays, unfortunately.
I'll say maybe Minecraft, but no, if that runs through Twitch, whew,
Yeah, unfortunately, you'd be kind of
up
out
a
of
creek.
luck, man.
So, what'd you do
Yeah.
this week?
Well, worked. Got to come in an extra 3 hours on my day off. That was fun. And then, oh yeah, I got to spin twice in the Apple line today. It was fantastic.
I think I'd rather be sucker punched in the eye.
Yeah, well, it's that feeling where you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people who bought this really expensive device and 99% of them don't know how to like turn it on. So the poor guy behind the Genius bar is just like trying to be as kind as possible to this person where it's like, "Yeah, my phone's not sending messages. Why is that?" And one of the guys was like, "Well, do you see how the iPhone's actually curved? This has received physical damage."
You've sat
And
on this thing.
she couldn't understand that that would affect the way that it worked on iMessage. And she was like, "I know all about cell phones because I have four of them. See?" And it's like, that's nice. Three of those aren't iPhones, but I don't know what you're trying to do.
I know all about the world because I have rocks in my backyard.
Exactly. What about you? Were you up to this week?
It's that it was that first week of 2018 that it's that, oh, I'm going to be super productive. And then you end up like maybe doing two things off your list. Make sure my insurance is all good, so had to talk
Hey,
about
but you
that.
got insurance.
Right?
It's pretty awesome.
And then other than that, not a whole lot. Kind of I didn't even play my game. Like I didn't do anything.
You didn't play any more Titanfall?
I played Titanfall one night and then I haven't since.
Ah, you haven't finished the campaign yet.
Not yet.
You're gonna like it, man.
I'm debating, do I want to play that after the podcast or do I want to build one of my models and watch anime on Amazon?
See, I would volunteer to like help you with that, but I don't get access until like later this month. But we're gonna talk about that a little bit here.
Actually, that does segue into a lot of what we're talking about today.
Oh yeah.
Today's main topic is, what do you believe makes a good video game a classic or good?
Ooh, that's a spring-loaded question. It feels like.
Yeah. But first up, we do have our YouTube roundup, which
Yes.
these are of like one of the videos you sent me when I was at work, and the other video I sent like everyone at work.
Everybody at work.
So why don't
Yeah.
you go ahead and introduce the first one?
So, this was actually given to me by one of our coworkers, Josh. I was asking him for some of his favorite kind of podcasts, and I was just kind of getting an idea of something that I can listen to, just on the go, something that would, I guess, teach me something because I really like informative, like historical, and just kind of more. I don't know what it would be more like. Education, almost documentary kind of deal.
Thought
But
provoking and less mindless entertainment.
yeah, and a little bit less NPR-ish because let's face it, NPR can like go off the deep end sometimes, and it's just like, how did I get here? I'm
Yeah,
talking about like
we're talking about
ancient
dental.
Native American like water dances. I'm like, it's fascinating as it is. I'm like, is this topic really something I'm going to be able to use in everyday life?
But like 3 weeks later at work, we're gonna be playing trivia, and it's gonna be talking about like ancient Indian water dances, and you're just like, I know this.
I, guys, I am so prepped for this.
You wouldn't. Though sometimes you like catch yourself listening to NPR, and you're just like, I am way too invested in this.
Yeah, and the other thing is like you're trying to figure out like some of these people are talking and it's like, do you understand what you're saying right now? Some of the stuff that you're saying is like absolutely outrageous and not thought through, but other times it's like, how come nobody's ever listened to you?
I wonder how you don't have funding all the time. 2 days later,
Exactly.
now I know why.
Now I know why. Hey, at least it's not like Breitbart or something.
Right?
But yeah, so I asked him for just some of his favorites, and he told me, he's like, well, have you heard of Roman Mars? And I'm like, well, yeah, he was like the god of war in Rome, but he's like, no, 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 Roman Mars. Apparently, he's a well-known podcast guy, and he sent me this YouTube link, which I then shared with you because I thought it was fascinating. And before I say it to the audience, please keep an open mind for it. It's called Why City Flags May Be the Worst Design Thing You've Ever Noticed. And I know when I first sent it to you, you probably were like, what in the world are you sending me right now?
Yeah, I kind of looked like, yeah, I will go ahead and get right on this video.
But I was like, no, you have to watch it. It's like 19 minutes. And I've like showed it with everybody now. So all of my friends go through and they're talking about this. But basically, Roman Mars has this thing called 99% Invisible, where it's a podcast that talks about design and really how the design of something actually changes the understanding of the world around us. So when somebody designs something, they have a statement that they're making with the design itself. And this was probably one of the most boring topics I could ever think of. I think it's vexillology is the
Yep,
correct
vexillology.
term. Vexillology? Is that it?
I'm sure we're dropping a syllable somewhere, but we're close enough for government work.
Yeah. But it's just the design of flags and the information that he goes into and just the passion that he has behind it, as well as apparently there's an entire like I guess study and like an actual group that studies flags all around the world. But I don't know. What were your thoughts behind it?
So I watched this video. In the first couple minutes, I'm like, okay, I mean, this surely can't go on for 19 minutes. At about 10 minutes, I was like, okay, I am really invested in this. By the ending of it, I was like, we need to design a Louisville flag.
Yeah. And actually, I found out. So we looked up the Louisville flag, and do you remember that blue one with the 13 stars and then the 3 fleurs on it?
Yeah.
That is actually the old flag. They adopted the new flag, which unfortunately is the Jefferson County logo on top of it. So if you guys are interested in what we're actually talking about, it's like after you watch this video, you kind of cringe whenever you see something like that. But trust me, if you watch it, you'll understand.
Yeah. Because
we also tried to figure out what Antarctica's flag would look like.
Was that the same day or was that like a different day this week?
That was the same day, so that was we had gotten on the the topic of flags, and then we were sitting there. It's like I want to design my own flag for something. And it's like, well, we could design a flag for Antarctica, and then that spiraled into how we would claim the disputed territory of Antarctica for ourselves.
That is
that
right.
Was
and
just an entire.
Still have not brought up with my fiance about trying to get her to have kids in Antarctica. So have not brought
That'll be
that
another
up.
podcast. That'll be another podcast worth of the entire theory that we had.
That podcast will be called The Death of Doug because eventually I will mention it and like it'll just be a thing.
It'll be a thing. But yeah, I do highly recommend it if you want to take a look. It's an actual TED Talk, which is what makes it more and more interesting. So Oh, go ahead.
TED Talks are either hit or miss, where it's like, this is a vastly, like, important, thought-provoking thing. Then other times, like, how did you get your own TED Talk?
What justified this, or who did you know that you were actually able to get up here?
I mean, and to be fair, if you had said the dude who talks about city flags got a TED Talk, before I watched this video, I'd been like, where do I apply to get a TED Talk for talking about Godzilla? Something. I don't know.
Where do I get a TED Talk for talking about TED Talks?
Yeah. And then after this, like, this man is a genius. Roman Mars for
actually-
president.
As much as you make fun of it, I did find a "What Makes a TED Talk Great" by TED Talks, which basically is a TED Talk about TED Talks. So therefore,
that that's like a recursive loop where it's like this thing is great because we're talking about TED Talks, which is a TED Talk because it's about TED Talks.
yo, I heard you like TED Talks, so I put a TED Talk for your TED Talks.
Exactly.
But the second one was a little bit more interesting and historical in value, which okay, to be fair, the Roman Mars one was very historical when it talked about the creation of flags, but reviving a 3,000-year-old ancient ball game.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about that, since you sent that to the entire office.
This it's hard to describe. The best way this sport looks, I think it's called like Mesoamerican Ball Game or something like that. It has the most generic, apt name where it's just like, that took no thought at all when naming it, did it? But
Oh yeah.
Alright, have you started watching Avatar Legend of Korra?
Yes.
This 3,000-year-old ball game reminds me of pro bending on a level because of how it's played in zones.
I can see that, actually. I see that a lot.
So basically, what this ball game is, I'm guessing it starts with someone rolling the ball towards one side, and you have to hit it to the other side without using your hands or feet. You have to use your hips.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
And
when you think about, this isn't like a kickball.
no, not at all.
This is a bowling ball made of rubber. Like, it is a
And the
12-pound
thing that
bowling
fascinates
ball.
me about this is that, like, I did a little bit more research historically into, like, what they're basing this off of. And apparently back in the day, they used to throw around just balls of pure rubber. And they could weigh up to, what was it we said? It was like 15 pounds?
Yeah, 15 pounds of moving force at your pelvis.
That's like a kettlebell into your hip every single time. Because the rule is you can only hit it with your hip. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So my question is, like, it takes some pretty intense maneuvering in order to go through and in order to get that moving around, like, off the ground.
Yeah, because here's the thing. At some point, it's going to be slow enough that some dude is going to be super ambitious and just, like, hammer it with his pelvis. And then it's just going to be like, oh, here we go again. We're not even going to get slowed down.
It's just going to be, like, a bad day for that dude.
And, like, even in the video, they talk about, yeah, you'll have bruises when you start.
When you start, I'm pretty sure that's, like, you'll have bruises
Forever.
Forever whenever you play that game.
Yeah. But my thought process was, my hip hurts when I'm sitting in bed for too long. I don't want to think about hurling a 12-pound bowling ball at my hip.
It's just like, oh, cool.
That's what I've always wanted to do. Slam
what I
my
always
body
wanted
to
to
the
do.
ground and hip check a rubber ball.
But hey, you got insurance now, so if you want to try it, go for it, man.
I mean, I looked at that, I'm like, I would play that definitely once in my life.
Definitely once. Just once, though.
Yeah, because if you played anything more than that, like, you'd just lose mobility in that leg. But
Nice.
the cool thing is, like, the YouTube channel that does that, I think it's Great Big Story,
Yeah.
they do a lot of really cool videos.
Oh, they really do. One of my favorite ones, this wasn't actually on our roundup for the day, but if you ever want to look up a really funny one, it's the how Tootsie Rolls saved an entire division in Korea, and it's not for the reason you think that it would be.
I watched that today, and I watched one last night about fugu fish, the fugu toxin.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It's really cool because you look at it and you're like, these are literally grandmasters. They are Mr. Miyagi of what they're doing, because they're like 800 years old, and it's like this will die when they do, because
yeah.
like it's like here's my apprentice. It's like cool. The 800-year-old dude is teaching the 500-year-old dude. It's not going any further than that.
Nice.
It's like, well, this is going to be a dying thing.
Just a little bit.
But then
It's
you-
gonna die now.
You watch that video and you're like, man, that'd be really cool to go see and do. They're like, it takes 300 years to make wasabi, and you're just like, you know, I don't have that patience.
So, this is going to be a kind of a side rant at the moment. Did you know that wasabi that you eat
It's
from,
horseradish.
yeah, it's mostly horseradish,
Yeah.
and that actual wasabi is like super expensive in order to go through and try and get it?
Yeah, there's actually a great video from the Great Big Story about this. I watched that last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And apparently they like grind up the wasabi root, the rhizome, on like shark skin.
What?
Yeah, it's really cool looking.
Yeah, I was just wanting to go through. I guess for like a video sometime, what we can try and go ahead and do is we can take a look at just episodes, or an episode of us eating real wasabi.
And you're just like, that would be like $800.
Yeah, that well, I don't know. I'd have to take a look at it. Like, just a second. Let me see here. Legit wasabi doing a. YouTube.
I'm guessing $70 for 3 ounces.
Real Wasabi LLC. Apparently, there is an actual company for this. And let's see here. Products.
I'm betting you can also hear my cats in the background, can't you?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But it's okay. There, you can hear movement behind me as well. So you're good. Let's see.
Well, I just don't think the listeners have ever heard
Oh
my
my-
cats.
Goodness. Apparently, fresh wasabi. I don't even know how to pronounce that word. I'm gonna feel stupid here. Rhizomes.
Yeah, rhizome.
RHIZ. Yeah, are for like $85.
For how much?
It's just like from $85.
Oh,
it's
so-
a half pound of the. So that would be pretty spendy. Okay, but you can go through and you can get a large jar of real wasabi powder for $25.
Okay, I mean, that's not awesome, but not too bad.
No, not at all.
It would be a weird thing to take off on taxes, though.
But this is a business expense.
And like, the IRS is like, it's a jar of wasabi powder. Tell me again how that's a business?
I send them the direct link to YouTube.
Yeah. Well, we did this.
This
sure.
is my defense. The YouTube defense.
Yeah. I really wish you could figure out, like, how many YouTubers have used the YouTube defense on the IRS.
I don't know. Like, I guess you could do it. I don't know. Now that the tax code's changed, I have no idea how that's going to work now. But
Bah
that's
humbug.
cool. Bah humbug. But
Who knows?
yeah. But
All
yeah,
right.
other than that, real wasabi.
Real wasabi. It's not in America,
It's not in America unless you order it.
right? Let's go ahead and move on to our main topic. And that again was, what do you believe makes a video game a classic and good?
Ooh, okay. So there's a lot. It's almost like a trifecta in my opinion. There's, for me, a good storyline has to always be there. And when I mean a good storyline, I don't mean like you have to be so in depth that it becomes like almost like a Tolkien novel of some kind. you know how in the Lord of the Rings it goes over the top detail.
Yeah.
But for example, we were having the conversation, what were some of our favorite classic games, and it's like, okay, there was Halo, the original.
Yeah.
So the reason why I loved Halo as a kid was because the storyline was well written, but it was also largely, I would say, a mystery. There was a lot to fill in that wasn't like given. They gave you a brief like, oh, hey, in the manual, we've been fighting the Covenant for however many years, or Mankind Evolved, we've been fighting the Covenant for a couple of years, and your Master Chief is Super Soldier. And that was like it.
It gave you the
they
information you needed to play the game, and nothing more.
Well, it's kind of like in the original Nintendo games. I opened up like a Mario NES game the other day and read the manual, and basically all it said is like, oh, hey, Mario fights Bowser. He's a plumber, and he's trying to save Princess Peach. And that was like the only story you got for Mario.
Fun fact about Nintendo manuals, and this is just a little side story. Do you know the character Birdo from Mario?
Yes, if I'm thinking correctly. You said Birdo?
Birdo has the giant wide mouth, pink boa on the head. It's like a pink Yoshi.
I do know that one. Yeah.
In the original Japanese manual, Birdo is referred to as a he, and how he likes to look pretty.
Oh.
Did you know? Did you know that?
No, I will go out on a limb and say that I learned something new today. Is that Mario has cross-dressing characters?
And like, only in Japan is that still like a thing. In America, it's like, oh, Birdo's a she. Let's not talk about that. Like, I remember reading that fact. I was like, no, I'm calling it. Nope, that's not a thing. Walked over, picked up my, I think it was Mario Brothers 2. Looked at the thing, I'm like, well, huh. So
that's something new. So for me, it's definitely the storyline behind a game. I believe that you have to have a good campaign mode for any successful video game, even if that's the only thing for it. So, for example, let's take a look here. Something plausible. So, yeah, Halo was plausible because basically it's like humanity eventually evolves and goes into space, basically. Creates the United States or the United Nations Space Command. And then they run into an alien race because, you know, if you're traveling that far in the universe, you're probably bound to come in contact with something.
Oh, for sure.
Whether that's an actual live creature or it's a, like, disease of some kind.
Yeah.
Which, hey, guess what? They give you both in the Halo game.
Yeah.
I mean,
in the form of the Flood, correct?
Yeah, in the form of the Flood. So you have almost a religious alien race that thinks that they're superior and wants to wipe us out, and then both of you get trapped on a ring, which you find out is a super weapon that was meant to contain a parasite infection that was trapped away and almost took over the entire universe however millions of years ago.
Can I be completely candid with you?
Yes.
I do not remember any of Halo's story. I think I've played 2, but like, I remember 3 vividly because I remember Derek getting the Xbox 360 before I did. But,
yes, and that was like the first game that Xbox 360 came out with that was worth getting.
He got a Naruto game, the Orange Box.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. The Orange Box was
and
awesome
Halo
as well.
3.
Yeah. So the thing about the original Halo, though, is that it's easy to go into like this huge like background story and everything else along those lines, because now that the franchise was sold by Bungie, which I believe is the reason why it honestly died, because Bungie created what was it? Halo, the original, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, and then Halo Reach were the games that were created by Bungie.
Right.
And then everything else got created by 343 and has been trash and garbage ever
Well,
since.
let's just say that it's not like Bungie did a lot better afterwards because they created Destiny, which
Yeah.
has not been received well. Like, it's been
No.
received well, but its after release hasn't been received well.
Yeah. So the thing about the campaign, though, is that now that there's so much backstory in Halo, we have entire book series that are dedicated to Halo. We have movies now that are dedicated to Halo. I mean, they have, what was it? I think it's like 3 live-action movies, which I found surprising. I used to be like all on board the Halo train, like Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, played with my buddies. Halo 2 was the first online game that I was able to play on my Xbox, so it has like this special place in my heart. But after Bungie sold it, I played like Halo 4, where they try to continue on the Halo series after Halo 3, which really there was no reason to.
Didn't they add another race like the Protheans or something like that?
Well, so they brought back the Prometheans, who were apparently the creators of the rings, or the Halo rings themselves.
Okay.
And the thing is that like originally the Prometheans are like these good creatures, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're the bad guys now, and it's like, wait, what? And then the Flood's completely gone, and it's like, okay, well that's kind of was like what made Halo games is, hey, check it out, the Flood's back. Oh, great.
Yeah, it's a, oh, you're now on a flood level. Well, I'm going to start doing something else.
I'm not gonna sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool.
I remember
But,
running around the Halo 3 flood level. I think it's what, Guilty Spark 343 or something like that?
Yeah.
For like 20 minutes, just like, I don't know where to go.
And they just keep coming at you, and
Yep.
you're just like, why? And then the worst part about Halo 3 is, since it was like the highest graphics quality that you could imagine, at least for the Flood series, you got to watch them possess Marines and like saw what they were doing in that first scene in Africa, where basically the Flood lands and you just hear the Marines like screaming in fear, and it's just like, yeah, that raised the creep factor a little bit there.
But you know what was really funny? On the flood levels, for the 360, it would tank your frames per second because there's so many, like, active, quote-unquote, actors on the screen.
Oh,
They'd just be like, I'm not
like
able
the
to do
flood
anything.
spores charging at you, along with like you go around a corner and there are like 40 of the things, and you're like, oh great, this is gonna completely kill everything.
Great. No wonder they let me have 3 shotguns on the approach in.
Yeah. So a campaign there that keeps all your characters to a minimum. So for example, think about all the great games. You have Mario, so you have Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Bowser, and you have Princess Peach. And really you have a whole bunch of other supporting characters and other kind of enemies in the meantime.
Right.
But they're not really the ones you really think about.
Yeah.
For the most time. They're icons that you can remember whenever you see a piece of paper. It's like, I know who that character is.
Yeah.
And they're so frequent in the game, it's like you understand it. For example, Halo is Cortana, Master Chief, whoever your kind of leader is for the group, Captain Keyes, for example. And
Right.
then you have, of course, the iconic Sergeant Johnson.
Yeah.
You limit it to 4 people, and then you have all sorts of enemies and supporting characters in the game. And, okay, that's cool. But you have those people that it's like, hey, I can remember names in this, instead of, hey, we have this guy that we're calling him by name over here, and he's here for maybe one mission, and then he's gone again. You're like, what was the point of me learning that dude's name?
Yeah. See,
But
I would tend to agree with you, storyline, but maybe less so about the characters, because one of my favorite and all-time classic games is Final Fantasy VI, which had like 14 main characters.
okay.
But none of the characters felt like they were the main character, if that makes sense.
I get that. Random fact: Final Fantasy VI is the last one that I played.
And like, did you enjoy it?
Okay, so this will hurt your soul.
Okay.
So I got a PlayStation.
All right. Here's the
Second,
thing. Here's the problem. The PlayStation port was the worst port of them all
yes,
because it slowed down.
it did. So I went through and I had it for PlayStation. Went through and spent hours on the first, I think it was 2 discs, or it was the first 1 disc. I can't remember what it was.
I'll say Final Fantasy VI was not more than one disc. That was Final Fantasy VII.
No, it was 7. Okay, so that's why I just got my Roman numerals
Yeah.
mixed up.
6 was
So-
the sprite based with like Terra, Edgar, Sabin.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yes, in that case, I do agree with you. That was a very good one.
Yeah.
I did play that one.
But yeah, let's move to 7, which I am not a super fan of 7.
But it's got the gunblade.
No, that was 8.
That was 8. Sure. Okay, listen, I'm not a huge Final Fantasy man.
Wait, all right. 7 had Cloud with the Buster Sword. Yeah,
Buster
it was,
Sword, that's
it
what
was
I was thinking
8
about.
with the Gunblade.
Yeah, 8 was
9
the
had
gunblade.
Vivi, and then 10 had Waka with the Blitzball,
Yes.
which I love
So-
10.
No, I was thinking of the
The Buster
or
Sword.
not what?
You were thinking of the Buster Sword.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
But
The iconic sword.
but my classic, it was Final Fantasy VI. It had a lot of main characters, but it wasn't like a character overload.
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing with games. Like, for example, trying to think of a game I played recently.
Mass Effect.
Oh, yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda. We were talking about that the other day. We have 2 conclusions about what this game is. But it has so many characters in it that it's like, oh, wow. And they're part of the campaign. It's not like a, random quest.
Yeah.
It's like everybody gets mentioned, brought back up, talked about. So it's like, oh yeah, remember so and so, and the only way I'm able to find so and so is because I pulled up my navigator and found him. Because it's like I have no idea who this person is.
Well, for me, I mean, I guess I was able to latch onto the main characters, and I do really like the main characters, which is actually controversial. I love Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm pretty sure that you and my brother and Micah were like, "Why? You have better tastes than this." But apparently I
Mostly
don't.
we were thinking that you were dropped on your head a couple of times, but
I mean, yeah. Plus, I held my breath for a very long time. But I guess I like the characters for what they're trying to go for. Like, I really enjoy. You're familiar with the Asari PB, correct?
Yes.
I absolutely love her as a character.
Oh, I agree. That's one of my favorite, one of my favorite characters of them all.
But as a really cool combination is to pair her and her team with the Turian. Yeah, the Turian. Virka or something like that.
Yeah.
Because their relationship and friendship, like, they're antagonistic to each other. That and PB and Cora, they're also
Yep.
very, like, antithesis of each other. PB is very childlike and Cora is very adult, but was raised by Asari.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they have this good chemistry in that they are getting on each other's nerves, but they have genuine moments every now and again. So
Yeah, see, the thing about, like, I guess that we had to talk about this as well. A campaign can have a number of characters, but it also has to have kind of like a set end to the game.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So, for example, the one thing I had like a really hard time with in the most recent Wolfenstein game is that after you beat the campaign, it's just like, oh yeah, and we're still fighting, and you can find like mini quests and stuff like that, and it never actually ends, so you never get that satisfaction of, oh, okay, it's over. And then I can sit there and be like, man, that was a great game. Instead, I'm like, oh, okay, so there's more I can do, and it's just,
I I think that's due to the mode of gaming, the ecosystem of gaming now, where it's like every game has to be like 50, 60 hours, where like an old classic SNES game like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, you can hammer out in an afternoon if you're really dedicated and know what you're doing,
Oh yeah.
and that's perfectly
Same with
fine.
Halo. We used to do that with friends. Whenever you'd go through and you'd play co-op with your buddy, you'd send it to the highest difficulty, and it's like, yeah, let's finish it before the night's over, kind of deal. And
Yeah,
you could do it
I mean,
theoretically.
you might have good memories. Are you familiar with Phantasy Star Online for the GameCube?
Oh yes.
I mean, it used to be a thing growing up in Vegas where we'd sit there with our buddies from like Friday night, like Friday afternoon, they'd get off school, do their homework, whatever, then come over to our house, play GameCube till like 11 o'clock at night. Then they'd come over early Saturday, and we'd play all day. Sunday, we'd all go to church together, come home, have lunch, and play all day. We put 2,000 hours into this game.
Well, that's also another aspect that I would say that really requires something is really like the relationship building around a game.
I would say memories around the game, and
Yeah.
relationship, like memories.
Yeah, relationship memories. Like, so my friends, some of the best memories that we had is we would always go over to our friend's house, or we would invite our friend over with the Xbox just so we could all play it together and enjoy that. And we would laugh about it and we would talk about it as time went on. And it was just like, hey, we just had time to kill. We went through, we enjoyed the game. It was fun. I mean, there is nothing to it. Sometimes you would get really mad at that friend for like just totally destroying you, but
Oh yeah, I mean that's Super Smash Brothers Melee.
oh yeah, I
You
mean,
you haven't lived till you played a 99 match.
exactly. And until you've gone through and like fist punch somebody because of them using Link too many times.
It was Fox, and it was that shine dashing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or Kirby. Kirby was the worst.
I would say even like modern games have that same feeling. Like Borderlands 2. You and I have a mutual friend. Actually, he was my college roommate, Andrew.
Yeah.
We would, totally not have tequila parties, which is an entirely different joke. But we'd go out to get a couple wings, grab a drink, come back, and we play Borderlands co-op on our 360s, and it was one of the funnest games to do because the writing wasn't super serious, the characters weren't serious, like the game was nothing but a joke,
Oh yeah.
and it was
And
like the best game ever.
you will be happy to know, and Micah can vouch for this, that is still a tradition in Boyce College. Like, people go from room to room in order to go through and just play co-op Borderlands over and over again.
Yeah, but
But it's
here,
a game you can play. It's a game that like people are still even streaming on Twitch.
but here's the thing, I bought it for my PlayStation 3 when I still had one. It was not as good. I mean,
Yeah.
the mechanics didn't change. Nothing changed intrinsically about the game. It was just there wasn't the same like, oh, I'm playing the Gunzerker and he's playing a Zero, and we're kind of watching out for each other. It's like, well, okay, I'm playing the game. I don't have to wait for someone to reload or their ability to cool down. I'm playing as fast as I can or want to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
I'm
like
trying to
I feel like that would be kind of like the same feeling if we tried to go back and play Halo now, especially because you can get the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox. I have a feeling it wouldn't be quite the same magic.
no, and the reason being is that I guess the idea is you already made the memories on the older version of the game, which is why I really have issues with re-releases. Um, for example, Blizzard announced that they were coming out. Don't even have a timeline along this, so it may not even happen. So if you're listening and we're like, "Oh man, this is going to be great," please don't quote me on this. They said it at BlizzCon, but they're coming out with like the vanilla version of World of Warcraft,
Yeah,
and the reason why I thought that was a good idea was because it's like, wow, things were a lot simpler then, and it was a lot more fun, and they may just add a few new quests and stuff like that in there, but they were going to keep the game mechanics the same.
Yeah.
For that one, just update the graphics. I don't know if I would actually enjoy that a lot. The reason being is that the whole memory behind whenever we played with kids was everybody in our high school class was like, let's create a clan and let's go out there, and we would play with our buddies. And then like now World of Warcraft is what, like on its like 8th expansion or something like that.
Let me see. It's Warlords of Draenor, 5, 6, maybe 7.
Yeah. So you would go back 7 steps. So the thing would be kind of like if they re-released Mass Effect 1 again with remastered digital effects. It's like
All right. To be fair,
whole-
I would buy it because I love Mass Effect.
oh yeah, I would buy it too. But the thing is that the whole idea behind it was I got Mass Effect 1, imported my character to Mass Effect 2, and then imported my character to Mass Effect 3, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's like, would I go through all 3 of those games again just and read graphics? As much as I would love to, and I love revisiting that, I just don't see why I would pay the money for an updated graphics, because I honestly don't think the graphics have to do with what makes a game classic and enjoyable or not.
Oh no.
As controversy as that sounds, especially since I'm a PC gamer, everybody's like, all the frame rates per second. It's like, oh, yeah, all the shading and everything else along those lines. I mean, one of my favorite games growing up as a kid was Super Battleship for Super Nintendo.
I don't
That
think I've ever
was
played
like-
that.
Hey, one day I'll go through, we can do a retro revisit of that one. It was pretty awesome.
All right.
But it's just one of those things where, I mean, Age of Empires, I got the remastered just because of the multiplayer and being able to play it again on a more modern machine without it crashing, because I had the original version and it just would not work on more recent copies of Windows. But the graphics really aren't like, oh man, this is fantastic. It's just a matter of, it was the gameplay that made it fun.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
So far we have campaign, has to be well written,
And you have to have those memories to it.
memories, and for me what makes a game great is, honestly, it doesn't necessarily need anything added to it for you to get full enjoyment.
Yeah.
So, for example, it would be like no microtransactions in theory. So, I'm playing Call of Duty World at War, and I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan. Just because, oh, Call of Duty, rawr. Just that mentality that everybody has with it. But I like World War II history.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it's like, oh, I played the multiplayer, and eventually as you go through playing multiplayer, you unlock different weapons and stuff like that, but you can pay in order to buy other items, and of course you have to buy a season pass because they're going to be updating and adding more maps and stuff like that. And it's like, I remember the original Halo just having the one set of maps,
Yeah.
and we went through and we played on those and played every one randomly
Mm-hmm.
until we were sick, basically, of everything else.
Yeah.
And even with Halo 2, Halo 2 did a good job when they released it. They came out with additional map packs, but it was like, if I remember correctly, it was only like $15 or something like that in order to download the newest maps and anything else along those lines. And that was about it. Now you have in Call of Duty, you can buy different skins, different weapon colors, different credits to unlock things, and it's basically like a gamble. We were talking about this, wondering if this is why so many people are drawn in by certain games, is because I can pay real money to get in-game currency that I can then get a loot box, and the loot box may give me what I want, or it may give me absolute garbage.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like we had talked about this. Overwatch. back
Oh yeah.
during the first Halloween event, I legit told myself, I won't have time to play this, but I want these skins. I should buy those loot boxes. I got 2 of the skins that I wanted. And after
Oh
that, I
yeah.
was like, well, I'm a moron.
And you're like, wait, I spent how much money?
Right. And that was like,
So
it calculates to time.
yeah, I would say honestly that it gives you everything. I mean, StarCraft was throwing shade with Battlefront that when they were going through talking about like gameplay or purchasing anything else along those lines for content in their games, but they gave you everything unlocked at once. Eventually, you could download more and
Yeah.
buy anything else, but they gave you everything at the game, so it wasn't like I have to play with a handicap or anything else along those lines, or I have to pay in to be better.
Yeah. It was, I have the game. Let me play.
Oh yeah, and then it just continued from there,
Yeah.
per se. But what are your thoughts? Anything else that you think makes a classic game?
I would say, and this is going to sound crazy, the developers have to love it as much as the fans.
I agree.
Like, EA does not love Battlefront like the
No.
fans love Battlefront.
Not at all. And
Who's
you want to know how I know that, though?
how's that?
The first re-release of Battlefront by EA.
Really?
So we're not talking about this most recent Battlefront game. We're talking about the previous one.
So
They hyped that game up so much, and then it was an absolute bomb, and EA decided we're not going to do anything to touch this game practically.
Yeah.
And they didn't give a campaign mode. It's just like, oh yeah, here's a game to play with.
did you see recently that the original Battlefront 2, like the original PlayStation old school like PC version, they updated a patch for it.
Really?
Yep.
And what does the said patch do?
I'm not sure what it does, but here's the thing. This is a game that is well over 10 years old being patched.
Oh yeah.
The developers still love it.
I mean, what was it? It was before LucasArts sold out, like, the rights to Disney when they made that game, right?
Do what?
Like, LucasArts Games, or LucasArts Games was still creating that one. And who created... Let me see here. I'm pulling it up on my Steam right now. Because
I'm actually not sure. I'm trying to think. I know Lucas Games still had it, and that was back when they were doing like Curse of Monkey Island, things like that. And their developers loved their games just as much as we did.
going to the store page. It was made by...
I mean, do you remember playing Battlefront back in the day when you're just like, you play through the campaign?
Oh,
You
yeah.
couldn't, like, I played on the PlayStation. I couldn't get online, but I still played with my buddies all the time because they're just like, oh, let me keep playing the same maps over and over. And, like, oh, my buddy got Darth Maul, and so I hate him for like 20 minutes.
This makes complete sense. It was Pandemic Studios.
Okay, what else
That
has
made it.
Pandemic done?
Pandemic, they made, if I'm remembering correctly, Full Spectrum Warrior, which
Okay.
was a huge hit for the longest time. And if I'm not mistaken, the Mercenary games.
And those are all games that people loved.
Oh yeah, and I would still go through and like Mercenaries is still one of my favorite sandbox games of all time.
Yeah.
I kind of prefer it even over to Grand Theft Auto, believe it or not. The reason being is that it was more of a hey, I'm a cool mercenary dude, and I'm helping the good guys, and I can choose to help the bad guys if I want to as well.
Yeah. But here's the thing, the developers loved the game. So they
Oh,
made
yeah.
the best game that they could. Not, what game is going to get me quick cash?
Yeah, and it's just like, oh yeah, all aboard the hype train.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, the gaming market now is a lot less for long-term development than it was back in early 2000s, the 90s, where it's like, oh, we have to make this game, and it has to last forever.
Yeah. Well, the thing was is that we didn't have the internet back then in the same capacity that we did. So if you wanted to add on to a game, you have to buy. I remember with the original Xbox, you'd have to buy a disc in order to download said maps to your actual device. So, for example, hey, let's play. What was one of the maps that was released for Halo 2? It was like there was one that was like a warehouse or something like that. It's like I want to play that one. Let's go to GameStop, get the disc. We have to get the disc, download it, and then play it on the Xbox itself. It's like that's so cool.
Yeah.
We can do this, and then it's like, or you can download it on. Nowadays, we have gigabit speed internets.
Yeah.
What?
And, I think that, wrapping up what makes a game a classic is it has to be. You and I will have different classic games versus what Micah or Derek will have versus if, your wife plays video games.
Mm-hmm.
What is a classic? It's because of, one, our personal preferences, but just how the game hit us at that point in time. Like,
Oh yeah, or I think it honestly comes down to the memory factor that we all had, and even if that's just a personal memory that we had just when we were playing a campaign alone, like wow, this is really deep and thought provoking that I went through and played this game that made me actually question my actions, like some of the first Fallout games that you're going through and you're like, wow,
Battlefront 2 had that moment for me.
Yep.
The Felucia mission with Ayla Sakura, and this is going through Order 66. And they kill her, like, they shoot her in the back, and literally you hear one of them say, it's a good thing we were wearing helmets that day, because we couldn't look each other in the eye. And, like, you've been playing as the clones, and you're just like, oh my god, what did we just do?
Yeah. And the other thing is just the family memories that you have. And it was funny that you mentioned my wife playing a game. You want to know the first game that got installed on my computer once I built it?
What's that?
Take a wild guess. You probably will never guess it.
I'm gonna go with Milton's Castle. I have no idea.
No. 102 Dalmatians. The interactive game.
Huh.
So apparently she used to play that with her parents all the time a long time ago. And this was like the Windows 95 version.
Yeah.
And that was the first game that got played on my gaming rig machine.
Nice.
Allison's in the back there, like, doing a fist pump.
Nice. And that's what makes it classic. Like, I wouldn't say that game's a classic because I've probably never played it. And even if I played it now, I wouldn't be like, that's a classic, because it has nothing of value for me, if that makes sense.
None at all.
So, but yeah, I believe that wraps up our main topic, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think we've beat this dead horse.
We've beat this dead horse.
So, we don't really have a weekly challenge this week because we just kind of like threw this together at the last moment. But we have a new program in store for our viewers.
Yes.
It is Dungeons and Dragons. So,
Yeah.
being as like this is the first time like you and I have been in a podcast together, why don't you go ahead and tell me about your D&D character, what you want the audience to know about your D&D character?
Yeah. I'm going to have to laugh because Derek's going to find out more about my character anyway, listening to this probably.
Right?
But Wolfarn is a Dragonborn barbarian, so that was kind of a interesting class because this is the first time I've actually played D&D. I know that a lot of people were wondering about, like, why does Sam not know what to do? Well, it's because I've never done this before.
Well, I mean,
But
if we go past like 3 sessions, that'll be the longest running game I've ever had.
oh, possibly. But yeah, so my character is well educated, and believe it or not, because of his background, he is actually well known by a lot of members throughout the guilds in our kind of world. What is the official name of the world that we have?
I don't think the world has a name quite yet, or if it does, I don't have it pulled up right now.
Got it. But he's well known. He has influence, but he's kind of this mysterious guy that keeps to himself. He served in the guild's militia and army, like personal defense force, and in a great battle, he actually ended up losing somebody who was really, really close to him, and therefore he's kind of been on this vendetta of trying to figure out who it was that was responsible and tracking them down, but kind of got caught in the crossfire of everything of our campaign, but really kind of designed him to be more weapons driven, if that makes any sense. And now that we've gone through and we have the Xanthar's Guide to Everything, it's
Yeah.
cool little things that we have to add on to characters, which is pretty legit.
Yeah. Definitely, he's one of the more mysterious barbarians I've ever had. Like, I've only ever seen, like, sneaky rogues who are just like, I don't want anybody to know who I am. Whereas it's, like, the first barbarian, because barbarians are, like, loud and boisterous, and your guy's very much, like, very educated and very smart, but, like, I don't want anyone to, like, really know about certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, we'll find out more information about that, of course.
Definitely. I just want to touch on that because, like I said, like you said, this is your first time playing D&D,
Yeah.
and like this is the first time I've been recorded playing D&D and DMing a story.
Oh, yeah.
And I do have like at a later date, whenever we're not doing a full season, another game that I want us to play because I want to make sure that. Because one of my favorite TV shows is something that I'm sure your daughter will eventually get into. My Little Pony. There's a tabletop. There's a tabletop version of that.
No.
Yes.
No, we're not doing this.
Yes.
Not doing this.
But
it's bad enough that you guys are going to make me play Minecraft.
To be fair, I'm not making you do anything. You're a grown man. You can do whatever you want. But I'm just saying that it would be an experiment of not playing a super I don't want to say violent because like D&D isn't violent. It isn't classically violent like we think like GTA or something like that. But it's less combat, I want to make them dead, and more like I want to do this, and more story driven just to expand the like thought process of I can do extremely silly things with serious consequences, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And plus it'd be like a good one-shot campaign of like, hey, let's just be as silly as we can.
Hey, be as outrageous as we want to.
And plus, like, it would be great because I have a feeling that it would be interesting if, like, your wife wanted to get involved in this because it's not super serious. Do whatever you want. You know? They're ponies that have magic abilities. It's not serious. D&D is serious business. We are pretending to be wizards and elves, man. Well, moving on. Let's move away from that because, that's not quite as interesting. Let's move on to our gaming news. And this week we do have something that's really interesting and kind of has been a buzz around my place, Derek's place, and one of the guys at work. It is Monster Hunter World. It's coming out the end of this month. But they've announced a new open beta for the weekend of the 19th. And they've announced that there's going to be a new monster to be hunted during that. And they've announced the first DLC. So let me ask you a question. Have you played Monster Hunter before?
Okay, sorry, I'm confused for a couple of seconds here, but no, I was going to actually say and admit that I have never played any of the Monster Hunter games.
The best way I can describe it is it's mechanically in the same vein as like Bloodborne or Dark Souls, in that It's a very difficult game if you're not actively paying attention. And
So kind of like Dead Space, when you thought that when you were crafting things, it was pausing the screen, and it really wasn't.
kind of, except that you're fighting giant, like, dinosaurs with battle axes.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, it's really fun. It sounds crazy, but, like, have you watched any of the gameplay of it?
I saw the brief, kind of like what was it, the preview release that they gave,
Yeah.
and I was kind of confused because I've never played any of the previous games. I didn't know what I was actually looking at per se.
Basically, you're hunting giant monsters and taking their, skin, their bones, and things like that, and making new weapons and fighting off their parents.
And fighting off their parents,
Yeah, pretty
because
much.
every parent would be really pissed if you killed their kids.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, I say that jokingly, but you can, like, pretty much farm the same monsters over and over to get more parts to build more of the armor.
Got it.
It's, to be fair, you have the same reaction I did when I was first introduced to the game back in before 2006 with a friend on a PlayStation. And they had the original, and I was like, oh, play Monster Hunter. You have to do this and this and this. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't like this. This is scary. And then I picked up, like, Monster Hunter 3 back on the 3DS and started playing it. I'm like, this is amazing. Why have I never played this? Wait a minute. I have played this back on PlayStation.
Got it.
So we'll definitely have to show you the game when it comes out.
But I was more confused. So you're saying that it's been in beta, which I know you guys have been talking about.
Yep.
You've had the beta.
Closed beta to PlayStation Plus members only.
Yes.
This open beta is for all PlayStation members who may not have PlayStation Plus.
But then you said the first DLC is announced and the game hasn't even been released yet, correct?
Yes, it's going to be like a day one kind of a patch, a free patch, because all the DLC is going to be free.
Oh, hey.
Yeah,
Good guy Monster Hunter developer.
right? Capcom, actually.
Hey, Capcom.
Right?
Pat on the back for that one.
And it is the Angry Picklesaurus Rex, the Devil Joe.
Nice.
He looks like a giant green pickle with teeth.
What?
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to see it. It's one of those. I've been involved with this.
Okay.
So let's move on to movie news, something that
Yes.
impacts you. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what it is?
Okay, so I have bad news and good news. So the bad news is that Amazon has officially shut down Amazon Strike. Its premier, Anime Strike, which was its premier anime streaming service. Like, you could go through, wasn't it that we went and looked for it because your fiance has it, and we were looking at some of the titles that we had. Studio Ghibli, it's on there, right?
Yeah,
A lot
like
of the
things like
well-known-
Paprika, Steam Boy, things like that,
Yeah, like they have a really good selection of them, but it was
including
an additional
Girls und
fee. Of,
Panzer.
yeah, it was an additional. What was it? $6, $5 a month. on top
About
of that.
$6.
$6. Well, Amazon people got really mad because they said, "Oh, it's a paywall," which I don't really understand because, well, I do and I don't. Amazon has so many things that you can subscribe to that's an additional cost, which is really frustrating.
Especially if you pay like your entire Amazon Prime bill all at once, so it's like $120, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh hey, $5 for Amazon Strike. Today.
Yeah, per month. Like, I get that. The thing is that it's a one-time fee that I pay, and I can get my money back with the same day or next day shipping. And also, like, Allison uses Amazon Music for everything.
Yeah.
Because it's like a free feature. Hey,
It's-
cool. But they went through and people were really upset about it, and I was actually looking at it because I was really bummed. I'm like, oh, I was trying to, what was it I was trying to look up the other day?
Like you were looking over my shoulder, looking at all the cool anime I was seeing, and you're like, I
Yeah.
can't watch that. What the heck?
Yeah, like Spirited Away and stuff along those lines. Well, I have good news for all Prime members like myself. Even though they're shutting it down, they're moving all the content to Prime Video included with your Prime membership,
Yes.
which is Awesome.
But it's
Now,
not going to be like till the end of the month,
that doesn't
right?
start until the 8th. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, but I want to say so because like I was trying to watch Girls into Panzer today at work, uh, but I couldn't find it. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. But then I realized, oh wait, Amazon strike. They're gonna put everything on the main channel.
Yes.
So my panic was well deserved, but a little too early.
But yeah, that's something to look forward to. And if you don't have Prime, I mean, go for it. I mean, I get my money back for my Prime membership within like a month of me using it.
Oh, to be fair, like, all right, here's
Amazon's slowly taking over the world, and unfortunately, I'm contributing to it. But they have a really good service.
like here's the thing, like if you don't know anyone with Prime, you pretty much are equivalent to like a crack dealer. It's like, hey, I got Amazon Prime, and everyone's like, hey, can you get this? I'll get you a gift. I'll pay for it with a gift card. You're like, yeah, I could totally do that. And like suddenly you have like 60 orders, and you're just like, I've never wanted this phone case, but I don't even have the phone for. But yeah, I'll order it. You get like 6 boxes a day. It's great.
So not everybody has the same day like Amazon feature, like in their city or anything along those lines. Amazon like hires out third party people to deliver your stuff, and the problem is I live in like an apartment complex that's very confusing to navigate because my actual address is a street address, but I live in an apartment.
Yeah.
So I live in apartment 321, but it's not, hey, this street address and number 321. It's actual 321 this street address.
Yeah.
So we get third-party guys that are confused all the time, and I have to help them out all the time. They'll be like looking around with an Amazon box in their hand trying to figure out where to deliver it to. But the guys know me so well because I order so much, they don't even like call me anymore.
Nice.
They're just like, yeah, left your stuff there, cool.
Thanks, man. Thanks, fam.
But at the same time, it's like, maybe I shouldn't buy because, I'm slowly killing the economy at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up movie news then. Well, movie TV.
Yes, sir.
And we don't really have any game releases this week, actually. I looked it up, and I was like, wow, we are kind of in the dead zone, aren't we?
Yeah, they're kind of letting the new year ride out on whatever games. I mean, PUBG's dominating right now with its new 1.0 release and being released on the Xbox, so there's that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else that came out, like, last month.
I don't really think so. Like, not a lot, anyway.
Yeah, nothing really, but it's just that it's the first of the year. Everybody's coming back after a day, making sure they have their final stuff ready to go before next month's releases start up again.
Yeah. We're winding down with people. They're, like, not asking hours questions at the library anymore. They're actually doing things these days.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess we should go ahead and wrap up, because we are over an hour.
Yeah.
So,
But go ahead.
any last thoughts before we start doing the social media wrap-up?
No, nothing that I can think of. All I would say is that in order to make a classic game, it's all about the memories that you share with your friends going through and playing with it. It could be the worst game like, for example, my family, it was Cooking Mama. It's the only game that all of us as a family ever played together.
Sir, shut
And
your mouth. Cooking Mama is a genius game.
Oh, it is a genius game. But
Yeah.
at the same time, to like the random outsider, somebody be like, why in the world did you play this game? Well, it's because it's outrageous and it's fun.
Yeah.
And the memories that we had were great behind it. So that ultimately is what makes a good game. And I would say, honestly, combined with memories, it's basically the passion behind it for the players as well as the developers themselves. Because once a developer doesn't really care about a game title or if a group takes it over, you can honestly feel that entire vibe throughout a video game.
You really can. You really can.
That's all I got.
Alright, then let's go ahead and move on with our social media wrap-up.
Yes, sir.
You can find us on Instagram at Gaming and a Chill Podcast, one word, and that is and, spelled out, not the little ampersand. On Twitter, it's gaming_in_chill, and you can use the hashtag Gaming and Chill Podcast. On Facebook, it's just Gaming and Chill Podcast. You can look us up. And our website, which is still being updated and still being refined, is gamingandchillpodcast.com. And as always, you can find us on YouTube at Gaming and Chill. Just look that up. We're actually one of the top searched for Gaming and Chill, actually.
Really?
Yeah, which is really impressive
awesome.
these days.
Hey.
And then you can always buy a shirt, and we are working on more shirts. I think if you go back and watch the Streamageddon from the first, we're going to make a crossbow shirt that says, Crossbows OP, please nerf. Well, at least that's what I want to try to. So you can buy shirts at cafepress.com/gamingandchill. And then lastly, in something new for the podcast, you can help support us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamingandchill. What it is, if you're unfamiliar with Patreon, is you can, say you'll donate $1 to $100. We really hope it's $100, actually. But you can say, I pledge this amount a month to help support, the Gaming and Chill podcast and all its related programming, so like retro revisits, bite-sized news, and some other programs we're working on, including the D&D one. So that way, it kind of frees up time and space to create more content, to get a space to create more content where all of our stuff can be left there, not dealing with cats, children, and well-meaning people.
Yes.
Because like the other day, some stuff on my desk was moved. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, where did this go?" And my fiance's like, "Oh, I found it on the floor," and so I moved it over here, and now it's in the mysterious black nether. And it's like, I will never
Broke the system.
I will never find that ever again. So
You messed with the system.
pretty much. So supporting us on Patreon will help support us there because I know, Sam, you have a daughter coming up, and I've watched what Derek's daughter does to his house, and your house will be a mess.
Yeah.
So having a studio to like record things and have kind of like I don't want to say decompression, but being able to focus on creating something without having screaming and crying and toys underfoot is definitely helpful.
Oh, yes.
So that is what our Patreon is for, and like I said, that's patreon.com/gamingandchill, and we're going to go ahead and have all our links on the screen when you're watching this on YouTube, but if you're on audio, we'll have it in our link dump below. Alright, and I believe that's it. Anything else you
Yes,
want
sir.
to add?
That should be it. We will catch you guys throughout the rest of the week. We're going to be releasing some more of the gaming footage of Tiny Metal, as well as more of Derek's retro revisit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So, until we see you next time, it may not be me and Sam, it could theoretically be Derek and Sam, or Derek and Micah, Sam and Micah. Whatever combination we come up with, we'll see you later.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.